All right, good afternoon. So today we are discussing Africa. We're picking up where we left last Monday. So what were you discussing?
Oh, last Monday I failed to recording.
Oh,
Disappeared. Overwritten everything.
really?
Yeah, gone
Dang it.
last Monday.
Okay. So what we were discussing, we were looking at Africa and we're looking at presidents, and we were actually talking about democracy and whether Africa needs democracy, whether democracy will always bring the best solutions. And I remember that our discussion was mainly, you said, okay, well, you need to be careful what you wish for. If you're going to engage in Africa is not really ready for a democratic system. That takes time. But so that there is actually some truth to it. There seems to be, actually, there's not only seems to be, there is, they did find a positive correlation between democracy and the level of economic growth. But that relationship is only valid after a certain level of development. So actually, if you want to stimulate the economy, if you want to stimulate the country, then democracy will not contribute a lot if you're still in a situation of poverty. So once countries start to outgrow their poverty, once they reach a certain level of wealth, implementing democracy at that time will actually contribute to economic growth, not below that. So some countries will need to, they might be better off having for example, a kind of like a benevolent leader, like Paul Kagame in Rwanda. There are some voices who are saying, well, we need a model like China, for example. That would be more beneficial than having democracy. United States, Europe have always been advocating democracy and wanted African nations to implement democracy. When we look at the United States today, then their policy has changed with President Trump. And basically he doesn't care so much about democracy and whether African nations implement democracy or not. United States is just as comfortable dealing with autocratic leaders, and some autocratic leaders are also praising Trump for not trying to get engaged into their internal affairs. Museveni was quoted saying that Trump was the best president that the United States had in years, at least for him. That's because basically he's United States takes a more of a hands-off approach, and the United States has always used the veil of democracy to divide.
You're talking about Africa?
Talking about Africa.
Trump is he doesn't concern for Africa, right?
He is not so concerned about Africa, and he certainly is not driving a democratic agenda. So former American presidents have always tried to sell the idea that African nations should become democratic. Trump couldn't care less whether they're democratic or not. As long as he can do business with them, everything is fine. And a lot of African leaders can appreciate that. They do find Trump is not trying to interfere with their internal affairs. So they appreciate that. Africa itself has some challenges in the democratization process. It's not a linear process where we can see more and more countries getting more democratic. Actually, later on today, we'll have a look at an article of, I think, of the BBC that is actually telling us that Africa is getting less democratic. Now, if we look at this list, it's a list of leaders who have been in power for a long time. Paul Biya in Cameroon, 43 years. Mugabe, 37 years. They're famous people. We have Paul Kagame, who is also in power for a long time. Recently, we've seen some people who stepped down from power. What was the latest? Who was that?
This is Museveni, 3 days ago. Uganda.
He stepped down 3 days ago.
Yeah, Museveni.
Really? I did not catch that.
Oh, no. Step down.
No, I don't think it was a
that's,
different guy.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, I think I know who you mean.
Ethiopia.
Was it Ethiopia?
Buferica. Buferica. Ethiopian president.
Where did they have elections recently? And
Ethiopia.
was it Ethiopia? I think I was looking for a different. I was looking for a country in West Africa.
West Africa.
Mali? No.
Kabila? Joseph
Kabila. No. Kabila is already out of power for a longer time, no? Not true. Actually, he's the president still, but they have a prime minister. But Kabila is still.
No. Kabila stepped down.
He stepped down.
But he has still big power for this government. But Kabila stepped down. New president there.
Right. So I have a little video about.
Which country are you talking about?
Yeah, I'm talking about. I read this 2 days ago.
Recent one is
Ethiopia. I read this 2 days ago. So
2 days ago?
Yeah. I was looking for information, but no, I don't. Maybe it was not the latest news. But I was doing research in preparation for today 2 days ago.
Oh, close everything. They don't open. Data set. Everything is still closed.
What's that?
I just recovered page. This is just 2 days ago. President?
Actually, maybe.
New president?
So actually, the opposition leader won, but then the election result was contested, as always.
Algeria.
Ah,
Algeria? Buftelica is the step down.
yeah.
I'm mistaken.
Yeah.
Buftelica step down. This one?
Yeah, Algeria.
Okay, same as
yeah,
mine.
Yeah.
Okay, same as mine.
So yeah.
Where is this one?
Right. So there is this difficulty to actually let go of power, and democracy doesn't always work well. It's not only the system that takes time for people to get used to, but the whole democratic process, the media, the role of the media, the role of the vested interest that the current presidents have to control the media, will make it a difficult a challenge to implement democracy.
Where did you get the information?
Algeria.
Trump are not concerned about African democracy.
Oh, BBC. I think I probably have a link about it. And BBC was Museveni. He praised Trump because of that. So this is a list, and so we have concerns about democracy. Now we saw all these interviews with Museveni already, and actually I would like to show this video. This is about Western democracy in Africa, and it's a video, I believe here, of an UN observer, a TED Talk. He is from Congo, lives in the Netherlands, and he was sent to Congo as an observer, and he comments on democracy in Africa. So we start with our royal family.
Royal family?
Yes, our Dutch royal family.
What do you mean royal
So he
family?
now lives in the Netherlands, so he first comments on the royal family.
What do you mean royal family?
Royal family.
Dutch?
The king, yeah.
For what?
You will hear it.
My king is Willem-Alexander, the king of the Netherlands. He came to power last year when his mother abdicated. I was so happy to see how this was possible, without election, without conflict, without any kinds of campaigning. According to TNS Nipper polls, 80% of Dutch people have confidence in the king. This is amazing because no Dutch politician has the confidence of even 50% of Dutch citizens. Why am I so impressed by the Dutch monarchy? Let me tell you my story. I left Congo in 1994 to escape the dictatorship of President Mobutu Sese Seko. I was a student and was fighting for the democracy. I have lost a lot of friends killed during demonstrations. Others, like me, fled Africa and moved to the West. In 2006 and 2011, the Netherlands sent me to Congo as an international observer of the elections there. As an international observer, I was able to speak to everybody. I met a woman who was cultivating a small field of cassava behind the big prison in Kinshasa. She was about 40 years old, and she had a baby on her back. When I asked her if she was going to vote, she said, "I don't believe in those things. You can't eat democracy." Her remark was so strong to me, so that when I came back to the Netherlands, I wrote a book with that title, "You Can't Eat Democracy." African politicians are facing big financial problems, so they have to find creative ways how to find money. Take Mr. Emezuru Ayotor, a 52 years old politician from Nigeria. Mr. Emezuru Ayotor was arrested at the international airport of Lagos in Nigeria. He was going to Germany. He had 2 kilograms of cocaine in his stomach. When the police asked him, "Why are you smuggling drugs?" he said that he had spent all his money when he was running for the Edo State House of Assembly in 2007. He was bankrupt. Smuggling drugs was the only way he could raise funds to run again for the next election in 2011. The case of Mr. Emezuru Ayotor might seem extreme, but is not unique. I met in Congo candidates who had sold their own houses or houses of family members.
What he's talking about? He's talking about election in Congo?
Yeah, he's talking about the democratic process, not only in Congo, but in Africa.
This is now in
Some
Congo?
This is Netherlands.
borrowed big money to finance their campaigns.
He's Netherlands person?
Yeah.
During electoral campaigns, candidates buy pens, school copybooks, cigarettes, peanuts, beer, and beans for the poor population. The more you give, the more votes you get. It's that simple. Is this the democracy we need for Africa? The democracy of cigarettes, beer, and beans? Shall we blame Mr. Emezuru Ayotor for smuggling drugs or other politicians for selling houses? Or shall we blame the electoral system, which is not compatible with Africa and the African culture? The electoral system in Africa is killing more people than HIV. Togo, Kenya, Zimbabwe. The elections resulted in big conflicts. Hundreds of people were killed. Millions of families were displaced. Every 5 years, when the elections are approaching, the people of Africa are not only thinking how to go and vote, but how to protect their children against the electoral violence, how to bury their children before, during, and after the elections. Amnesty International reports war crimes and crimes against humanity in the post-electoral conflicts in Africa. Former President Laurent Gbagbo of Cote d'Ivoire and President Uhuru Kenyatta of Kenya are facing trial at the International Criminal Court in The Hague. Criminal prosecution. Is that the solution? Can Africa's political problems be solved by the International Criminal Court in The Hague? The most elections are paid for by the West. Salaries of members of electoral commissions, logistics, pen, voting passes, ballot boxes, ballot papers. The West even gives money for the population census. Just the election in 2006 in Congo cost $500 million. The consequence is, once elected, African leaders are more accountable to their sponsors in the West than they are to their own population in Africa. Now is the question, what if one day the West decides to cut off the election funding? Will then the democracy in Africa die? Jacques Chirac, former president of France, once said that Africans are not ready for the democracy. From Egypt to South Africa, from Senegal to Somalia, Africans were crying, shouting, blaming Chirac. Chirac is crazy, they say. We Africans are also human beings. We Africans, we are also able to build democracy. No, Chirac is not crazy. He's right. We Africans, we are crazy. I want to formally thank Mr. Chirac for his contribution to the African self-awareness. But the question is, what kind of democracy was Chirac talking about? The democracy of Chirac is based on the French and European traditions. If Africans want to practice the democracy of Chirac, we have to throw away our own traditions, deny our own identity, and instead embrace the identity of Chirac and his traditions. We Africans, we can never, ever be ready for the democracy of Mr. Chirac with contest elections. His insults should help Africans think about their own model of democracy. An African proverb says, if you don't know where you are going, go back to where you came from. Africans have to go back to the democracy of the African's village. Every village, every ethnicity in Africa is democratically organized. It works like a constitutional monarchy. There is a chief, a wise council. The succession of power happens without election, without conflict. There is nobody who is paying to be chosen. We can also apply this model at the national level too. Suppose leadership were passed on according to fixed rules, from region to region, or from province to province, like the Olympic flame, or even like the rotating presidency of the European Union. Regional leaders will be appointed for the role of national president for a limited period of time. They will no longer need to worry how to keep the power or how to win the next election. Catholic Pope Francis was not chosen in an election like the one that kept President Mugabe in power in Zimbabwe. But he has more legitimacy than any elected president in Africa. I can say the same thing about the president of China. What about the King of the Netherlands? Whether or not this is the best solution, one thing is clear. The Western model of democracy is not working in Africa. Not at all. Imposing a system of democracy on a people is the opposite of democracy. It's dictatorship. Thank you.
Okay, what his message? He's just talking about Western democracy is not a democracy for Africa.
Yeah.
He recommends the dictatorship in Africa.
Not a dictatorship. He recommends the local democracy as it has been there for ages, forever, with a chief who's appointed, and with a local council that's asked for advice. That is the kind of democracy that has always existed in Africa. So local rulers, they appointed the chief, they appointed this council, and that's how they ruled their local society. The way that Western democracy works in Africa is that it leads to violence, it leads to heavily spending money that they don't have, and actually the way that it works in Africa is actually politicians who spend most money on beer and on cigarettes and on giving away things to local people. They get most support. So there is it's a race that is run purely through economics. Well, we don't only see that in Africa, we see that in the United States too. If you look at how much money is spent by the candidates in order to get support, it's enormous. So it's not, you can actually say that the democracy today is more of a money race to get sponsors than it is a race of finding the best candidate. So the problem with that is that most of the money that comes into Africa to support this democratic system comes from Europe, and the problem with that is that actually the people who receive those donations, they have more they have stronger relations, a stronger debt towards Europe than towards their own people. So this is actually a dangerous situation that could be counterproductive for the African countries. So what he's saying, that democracy in itself, it doesn't work in Africa, and there are actually alternative models like the monarchy of the Netherlands, like the presidency in China, like other institutes that work as well, if not much better, than our Western democratic system. That simply does not work in Africa.
So I don't understand what his recommendation is. He does not support Western democracy.
Yes.
What is alternative opinion?
He gave that just now. He clearly explained it. Just go back to the way that we have been doing democracy throughout in history that basically having the local chiefs with a local council, that is the best way to.
What is it?
Basically, it's like almost like people vote their mayor, and they have a local council, so a representative from members of that village, and that's how they rule themselves.
How organized country base? He's talking about
Right.
local governor, right?
Right. So probably how that would translate on a country base is that those chiefs would select a regional chief, and a regional chief selects select a national chief. So it's more
Like
of
a similar to
district
China.
system. Yeah. Yeah. He says that there are a lot of systems without democracy that work very well, like the Roman Catholic Church and the Dutch monarchy and the Chinese system. Why are the West imposing democracy on us? It's expensive, it leads to violence, and the outcome is more determined by how much you spend than by the quality of your policies. Plus, actually, it leads to corruption, and it leads to other things. So,
But governor's election is the same. Lives.
no, it's not. So that election is not so much of an election, actually. Oh, you mean the people who are in the council? It's mostly based on seniority.
Oh, he's not talking about governor.
No.
Council is local representative.
Yes. Yeah.
Like a China.
Right. Like China.
But this is China's system is not kind of socialist or communist, just kind of typical special
Chinese system.
Chinese system.
Right. Right. Well, so basically, those local villages, they have a chief, and they have a council. That's how it works everywhere in Africa, not only in Congo, but everywhere.
Yeah. A local representative.
Yeah.
Tribalism.
Yeah. Yeah.
Somalia, this tribal head is going to be selected. Local provinces.
Yeah. So, what you see when you ask a Kenyan, for example, where he's from, then he would most likely define himself as a Luo or a Kikuyu or a Samburu or whatever, but only in second thought he would define himself as a Kenyan. So the racial lines, the tribal lines are still very much present within African society.
Oh, this is like Saudi Arabia or kind of Muslim society like that, right?
Well, in Saudi Arabia, it has been always nomads have been there, right? So they've been going around and traveling in packs. Not really, they only recently settled.
How do you think?
Well, to some extent, I believe that he's right that it doesn't work, the democracy. Whether, and I also feel that when you are implementing a system, then there is no. I mean, it's not fair to impose a system that is not native to your people. So democracy in itself is not like a golden arrow. It will not solve all your problems. And if the system doesn't work, which it obviously doesn't, maybe a different system would be better. So whether this is the tribal system that they still have, I think that also causes for a lot of problems. Like the tribal system, it is very native to the local people, but there are also a lot of conflicts between tribes, and when you stick to those lines, I mean, it's basically, is it very efficient? That's the question.
You mean not efficient?
Right. So can if you're going to really implement a system that is very much focused on grassroots democracy, then I wonder whether this will actually help your country to develop. Against this, in another video that I would like to show later, these same countries are talking about starting an African Economic Union modeled after the EU. That is going in a completely different direction. That's actually delegating responsibilities away from the countries to a transnational body to get more economic power versus the rest of the world. So I don't know exactly whether the introduction of formalizing tribalism as a form of democracy would be contributing to initiatives like the African Economic Union.
But last week we discussed the election itself doesn't work in Africa because of ordinary people's education level is so low.
Yeah. Well, actually, I got a quote from an African famous person. I think he's a musician, but kind of a leader, a thinker about this. And yeah, he's saying the same thing. How can we expect people to vote responsibly if they can't even?
Advanced developed country, ordinary people are well educated, so they can elect, you know.
But Uno-san, they still vote for Trump then.
Trump is not bad. Not bad, and his character is terrible. But
no, he's terrible.
Yeah, political policy is very fairly appreciated in America.
Appreciated.
In America, this actually the supporter is more than 50%.
So what you're saying is that like building a wall with Mexico is a good idea.
Well, some cases terrible, but major his policy is fairly evaluated.
Starting a trade war with China is good policy.
Oh yeah, he did very remarkable progress. He did. Like China tried to make protect government state-owned company, and Trump said it's bullshit. And they opened many, restricted industry. They opened, they improving trading. Actually, Trump did. Obama, he cannot do that, but Obama did it. It's good. I just he's not all of those, but he's doing very well. Mexican border wall is terrible, but some other things is. But he hate brown color people, yellow color people, black people, and he is a white color superiority type of person. This is his bad character. There's no way. But any other political issue is very good. Or like Obamacare,
disrespects women.
Trump care is terrible, but he's just some major portion of what that like he retreat from Afghanistan, Syria is very good decision, right?
Yeah, but he's going to put Blackwater in there. Eh?
Of course, this is he need money. So
Yeah. No, okay, but there's so many things here already. Like asking a few questions. He has a lot of terrible things.
Okay, he needs money.
Also, he put he stopped all the climate agreements. That's also a good policy.
Oh, this is his character. He's not chasing money.
I mean, sorry, Uno-san, I do not agree that Trump is a good president.
But
He's terrible.
most important is you don't consider the aspect of European people. He's just more than 50 people support him. This is a fact.
50%. Yeah. So what I'm saying is that
why
if they
but just why he supported, because he tried to bring back middle class people income.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Already disappeared.
Moody.
No. But he said, okay, he tried to do that. He's against billionaires. Okay. He against rich people. This is true. And he's
not against rich people.
He doesn't care tactics. Okay. And I like money. I like women. I hate not white people. Right. This is his character. But he just tried to revive middle class people in their society. That's the reason why majority people support him. And he just competitor is rich people, right? Like 400 families, rich family.
But he's not. That's not at all what he's doing. His policies are supporting the rich people.
No.
Tax breaks and everything.
No, European people is pitiful, shortcoming. You must evaluate why American people support him.
Right. So because he says he supports the middle income people, but the only way that you can do that is you give them back economic power, not stupid, thoughtless measures that will not really help them.
No.
This is just there. He's damasareteru.
No. 300 million population in America. This majority people support him. We must calmly listen to their opinion.
No.
Okay.
No. They support him because they do not evaluate what he's really doing. Because he's the anti-voice. He was not an accepted member of the Republican Party. He was certainly not a member of the Democratic Party.
Okay.
That's what.
Wait a minute. You can criticize him whatever you want, and based upon New York Times, based on BBC and CNN, but he is supported. But you just more calmly evaluate what he's doing.
Yeah, I'm doing that, and I can only see things that are either irrational, unfair.
Your aspect is CNN, BBC, and New York Times, or Nikkei newspaper.
Ono-san, no, he does so many terrible things. It's unbelievable.
But he's supported. Why he's supported?
I think because he's the anti-voice. He's basically, okay, sure, there is a problem because American middle class is disappearing, but he will not bring that back, because the only way that you can bring back the middle class is not by supporting them.
Must be careful. This is this is the most important thing is somebody told me that on the news we must be evaluate the information. Okay. Information. What kind of information do you have? And you don't speak up opinion without information. Okay.
Yeah.
This is very important. I'm just seriously. I had same opinion like you before, but now recently he is supported. Why he is supported? This is very important to make a judgment who he is.
But it doesn't mean that he does the right things, Uno-san.
No.
I agree. He's supported.
You just it means what you're talking about. You negate America, okay?
Yes, I do believe. So the point was, why do I get to this point? Because you say Africa is not ready because they don't have the people are not educated well enough. I say even if country has people who are very highly educated, who are literate, who have access to information, they can still choose the wrong candidate.
I tell you, America is not well educated. Don't misunderstand that, okay? America is not well educated.
Well, certainly his voters are not.
No, great local country.
Right. So his
many people they don't know where Japan is. Not
certainly the Trump supporters.
But this is actually that America is America. So he did wrongdoing, but he's supported. But this is America, all right?
Yeah.
So we need to. America is a democratic country? I don't think so. Right? So this is a fact.
Well,
but if you go consider for Africa,
this is what I need to actually give to Trump, because actually he got elected even though he didn't have many sponsors. He didn't have a lot of money behind him, different from Clinton.
No, he don't have.
No. So actually, so that's in that sense, democracy prevailed, and he actually got the vote in spite of the fact that he didn't spend most money.
No.
So that would actually say, okay, that this is a victory for democracy that he won, but you cannot say that he's a good president. I cannot agree with that at all.
But he's a president.
Yes. So it means that democracy is not perfect in actually being the
you
best
should
candidate.
accept he's president of America, right?
Yeah.
And American people voice.
Yeah.
So we need to consider what is America. This is what is America, right? And just consider for climate change, but California support climate change, right? And many states
preservation. Yeah.
many states is support climate change.
Yes.
But Trump is against it. But America is very interesting country. Even if Trump against it, but many states support climate change. But this is fact, right?
Yeah.
And we need to more calmly evaluate who are there. you
I cannot stay calm. I cannot stay calm when I hear all this stupidity.
This is European president or chancellor talking about America, like what you said. But this is not right. You more calmly evaluate who he is. Otherwise, okay, this is Confucius. Okay, Confucius said, listen, what exact who he is, and just don't get white head, okay, cool down. This is otherwise you cannot talk with them. European people cannot talk with him because their head too hot. Calm it down, right? So this is we need to.
とんでもないやつでしょ。
No, this is some aspect he is bad, but some aspect he is very good. Like especially for China, he doing very well. He never compromise. This is very important. China is not like he just called a telephone call to Taiwan, right? Whenever he elected, this is he has common sense, global level common sense. But everybody never touched Taiwan. But now he built embassy in Taiwan, right? But this is common sense. Taiwan is a country. He just accepted. That is right, right? And Russia is also, he just have right decision. He believed Putin, he is not wrong, right? But worldwide, Putin is he.
You also believe that Putin is not wrong. Oh, なるほど.
Yeah, his Eastern world. He is in Russia. He is very evaluated, right? But now recently, a little bit not stable.
Well, not in the countries around Russia, by the way.
But must be considered for the who are there. So precise observation is required.
So,
like Japan is they expecting 4 island return to Japan from Russia. It's ridiculous. I can't consider for the kind of issues because only Japanese people watching Russia are the aspect from Japanese people aspect.
yeah.
They never consider for global level.
This is the same with, but this is the same thing with negotiation. Only from their perspective.
Right,
This is what we
exactly. So this
only from our perspective.
This is a problem.
Not interested in looking at putting yourself in the shoes of the other person and say, hey, what does the world look like from their eyes? That's a big problem.
But I tell you, but I cannot speak a kind of opinion in Japan. Right? They never thinking about that. Also, North Korea, we are just what's the name of that? The people is what's the name of that? People, many people to know Japanese people in North Korea.
Those
some kind of hostage.
Yeah.
But this sort of things is always Japanese government try to talking about only Japanese side.
Yeah.
They never consider for North Korea at the global level. And but I can say that this is sort of opinion. I can speak at the global level. Everybody beat me, right? So this is Japanese people's attitude. It's called problem, but that's the same as Trump. Okay, you can criticize Trump whatever you want, but if you're going to talk with him, you need to more calmly evaluate. This is good. This is bad.
So, well, this is bad. This is bad. This is bad. This is bad. This is bad.
Oh,
this is good.
This is the Macron. Macron's approach, right? But if you need to communicate with him, at least he's a representative of America.
He's a tondemonayatsu. He's
But
completely free riding.
he has great power. America has a greatest power in the world.
Yeah.
So you
So
should,
don't abuse it.
No, you should come down to communicate with him.
No.
So Abe is very clever. Okay, Abe follow him, whatever he said. He's right. He tried to protect Japan. Right? So this is Confucianism. Okay, listen and consider for what the background, what he's thinking about. Right? Or like Central America, people is coming to up to the north to get in Japan and America border, right? And the reason is America invaded those Central America. They call the reason and why they coming up to north. But Trump never accepted. He understand, but he never accepted. But this is wrong. I agree with you. Terrible. For 200 years, America invaded Central America, South America. America is, terrible things they did. Also, they protect American company in Central America and South America. It's bullshit. But actually,
they kept terrible leaders in.
Actually, that exists. It is. America is. I don't think that just invaded Philippines, killed many people. And Baguio City, one sixth of the population, they killed year 1900. So they are kind of brutality they have.
Yeah.
But we understand that. But that we understand that and the history. But this is fact. Based on those facts, we need to evaluate who are they. So after going back to Africa, so how we're going to evaluate them? I just agree with him. This is useless to just on the election by ordinary people. Ordinary people, they have no knowledge. They have, okay, do you know that? And they have African people, majority people, ordinary people live in Africa, no educated. And Congo, if you go into the country, and you can find out any 8 years old girl, everybody go to send a prostitute, right? So and
I brought a video about Congo, about the situation on the ground. It's
terrible. But Congo is $1,600 per GDP per person. It means in the Africa, the Congo is a fairly good field they have. But consider for Sudan, consider for Mali, and those countries, $300, $400 per person, more terrible. No statistics, and sort of areas just democracy, election is stupid. Just bribes, and if you don't vote this person, and some countries they are cut their hand, right?
Well, they did that. Okay, they cut their hand. This is something that the Belgians actually did in Congo. They really repressed the local population. They were the worst.
But now is rulers African people, but actually the many countries dictatorship and not good governed, right?
Right.
And bribes, and they are selling their own country asset to Western.
But that is also that's also the something that they inherited from their from their colonializing powers. Of course, it's been a long time since many of those colonies have been abolished, but the way that the colonies have been ruled was very much contributing to the system.
You're talking about neocolonialism?
I'm not. Yeah, neocolonialism is a different story. Also, more videos about that. But actually, colonialism, like by France and Portugal and England and the countries who actually colonialized Africa.
I tell you, many African countries that the president, they are selling their country asset.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They don't consider for people.
No, because the way that a lot of those presidents are actually minority people, so they need the money of their resources in order to stay in power. So Western nations understand that, so they provide them power. They make sure that they stay in power in exchange for access to resources.
That's right.
So. Yeah,
so
we can say that Africa is terrible, but basically we are terrible for maintaining this kind of system.
So what his opinion is better than normal election. Election itself.
What he sees in Congo, he sees that actually it doesn't work there because it costs a lot of money. People don't have money. It leads to violence.
I agree with him. Election is useless. So what is the alternative? But he said tribalism.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure which one is the best solution. But election is not good.
So at least democracy doesn't work well in Africa.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Do you agree with that?
Well, Western democracy doesn't work well. I do believe in that. So actually, my observation of going to Africa, because my reason for going to Africa was actually because I wanted to work there in order to support development work that Western countries are doing. So to work on projects, to work for UN or for other organizations.
Oh, you saw that?
Yes, but once I arrived in Africa and actually saw what the real problems are, I realized that actually all these Western initiatives, all these Western projects that we are starting in Africa, they do not really help the local people.
Do you know why?
Because basically we are giving our solutions to their problems. So I think that we do not listen to them carefully enough. We do not solve a problem in a way that it can be supported by them. So a lot of these projects, once completed, if they get completed, once they are completed, they do not fit in with the rest of their system.
One example, like a Japanese ODA to China, the same. Japanese government decided Chinese people were going to decide what they want to spend money, and all ODA follow on Chinese opinion. And this is actually bribe. Send money for China. The Chinese people, they share their money by key people, key person, and final result is terrible. All around it like that. Instead of Japanese really going to propose what they should do.
Right.
So basic problem is people who received money. The same thing happened in Africa. Okay, IMF, every organization send money to Africa, but authorized people try to bribe money, those monies, right? So actually, all those money.
But on the other hand, by actually suggesting what they should do, that's I saw firsthand how that would pan out. So I worked on a bunch of meteorological projects. Was supported by JICA in mostly Southeast Asia, but also in Africa and in the Pacific. Basically, the Japanese authorities were implementing hardware and software, and that okay, so that was the technology that we could offer there, but we were not exactly listening to how people were working locally. So what we did is we created these fully automatic weather stations that would observe weather, store data, generate reports, everything automatically. But the way that those meteorologists have been working their entire life is with different kind of instruments. They would basically...
They are not expecting like that.
No, they are not expecting like. They work in a different way. They basically...
But usually Japanese government never listen to them.
They don't listen to that. So what happens is that we create this fully automated system, but we don't train the people to actually work with that.
It doesn't work.
It doesn't work. When and I believe I told this story before, but I got a call from a consultant from JICA on Christmas Day, saying he just arrived in Bangladesh, and there was a terrible problem because they were not receiving any weather data, and we needed to fix it right away. So so I drummed up everybody to look at the problem, and what we found that actually the weather data had not been received for weeks already. It was not just that day, for weeks, and nobody raised a voice. That means that they are not using it. Japanese authorities have spent millions of dollars implementing a fully automatic system, and the local people just continue doing what they've always been doing, and observing weather data manually by observing the clouds, by looking at an analog thermometer, a barometer, all these things. They didn't need any fully automatic system. So we thought it was a good idea to implement our system there, and they thought, well, whatever. As if you're going to bring money here, if you're going to spend millions of dollars, then by all means,
well, this is
you're welcome.
Same thing happened in Africa by IMF, World Bank. They spend lots of money, but actually
almost every project failed. I visited many projects.
And do you know the Libya, Gaddafi tried to spend money to Sub-Saharan North Africa, and he tried to make African IMF, and he tried to make African countries and unified, but he killed.
Yeah.
But Westerners, they don't like it to improvement in Africa. But also my concern is I studied a lot of Africa. Their democracy is not suitable for them. Election itself is completely useless. Everybody like Congo and any other country, and president candidate election is every election is bribe.
Yeah.
Right?
That's what he said. Like people, candidates, they invest a lot of money in cigarettes, in beer, and things like that to buy votes.
Well,
Just
so what is the best way to settle their democracy?
Well, with everything. So basically, what you need to do is look at the good things that they have going and try to amplify that. So I visited many projects, and what I saw is that so many projects are failing. So many things that we put there are failing. A simple example is a road in Mozambique. They built a road, Italians, but with Italian money. It was a beautiful road, but nobody was maintaining it. Why was nobody maintaining it? Because there was actually one tribe that lived along the road, so every tribe needed to take care of it, and they didn't take care of their stretch, and because they didn't do it, other tribes thought, well, if they don't do it, then we don't need to do it, because soon, with all the rains, etc., we will have potholes. That means that we can't use that road anymore, so they just gave up on it, and all the investment was just basically gone. Belgium financed a glass factory in Tanzania. So Tanzania was going to take care of a good road that would lead up to the factory. They were going to make sure that there was clean water, and I think they and staff and Belgium was going to finance the equipment, the factory hall. And I think that's it. So when I arrived there, I I could not even I almost had difficulty getting there on a motorcycle. It was the road was so bad. It was incredible. The entire factory had never been used. It was there were actually
No infrastructure.
no infrastructure, no clean water, no electricity. So there was no way they could produce the glass there. It was basically, I mean, okay, it was.
At this meaning, Chinese many Chinese got criticized, but he's doing well. They are making infrastructure anyway.
I have another video of Chinese investment in Africa. Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, they are doing well. They are over-investing, and with the reason to get access to their minerals.
But their own national interest, I understand. But he just they just invest a lot of money for infrastructure anyway.
And very expensive. Like how much did they invest in the road between Mombasa and Nairobi? There's also in the video a lot.
But this government is they don't make evaluate a judgment for the offer from China.
Right.
They themselves stupid, the government stupid. And
well, they're also rent seekers. They're also trying to, because they invest a lot of money, so they also want to have return on investment. They want to get money back, just like Trump. I wouldn't be surprised that Trump was only interested in the presidency because that would be great business opportunities for him.
Of course, like a Mexican war.
Yeah.
Kickback.
Blackwater in Afghanistan.
Yes, kickback.
That's going to bring him so much money.
Africa is the same. Right? And Japanese government making investment in Africa. Japanese is fairly can do something for them without any kind of sort of special sword, bribes, everything else. Japanese is one example is South Sudan. For 2 years, the Japanese government to build their agriculture project. Strategic planning several years ago. That is a good example. But normally, African democracy is useless. So we need to discuss what is the most preferable regime organization will support to be in Africa. And last week you said South Africa is. How about South Africa? Historically, that country is democracy, so that works. But any other country that doesn't work in Africa.
Oh, you mean white democracy?
Yeah, white democracy. That's right. So this is, I think, we need to consider for the way of thinking about what is the best way. And last week, also I proposed deliberative democracy. Is one of the opportunity to consider for them. Knowledgeable people, well-educated people will going to propose to government.
So that's basically, that would be more of the tribal system.
So, but we need to. Nobody consider for what the best way to solve African regime, right? And I don't think current authoritarian system or dictatorship, I don't think this is the best solution. I don't think so.
No.
Right?
No, that's good. That's the worst for them, because that maintains the fact that they have a relatively small power base and they just cling to power because it's.
For example, success country like Botswana is a success country. No bribe, and they're making their product of diamond, but De Beers gives them 70% of sales revenue. That that country is very rich. No bribe. If they have bribe like the other country, they have no growth. So they attain 6,000
But they modeled themselves after Singapore, I believe.
Singapore.
Yeah, Botswana was kind of inspired by.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. this is some meaning true, and they try to much more emphasize on education. But any other countries, they try to make education, this doesn't work.
Libya.
Libya?
Actually, they invested heavy in.
You mean Libya?
Libya.
This is a corrupted country already.
Yeah, it's very much corrupted, but they had a strong focus on education and healthcare.
Oh, this is former Gaddafi survivor. That's right, but not now.
Right. At the moment, they basically the country is
Everything disappeared.
torn apart. Yeah.
Everything disappeared. Still turmoil. They nobody lead that country, right?
Right.
So this is Africa democracy, but not good solution. Answer we don't have.
Well, I think with everything in Africa, Africa has its own ways, its own culture, its own traditions, and just projecting all of our values, all of our systems, all of our institutions on that continent is not the best solution. Okay, maybe we can look at how the EU has contributed to unity in Europe, and how basically they have become a stronger negotiator with the United States because of it. Now, Africa is trying to
stronger negotiate with US, United States.
Basically, if Europe was bilaterally negotiating with the United States, they would have much less bargaining.
Not Africa.
No, not Africa. But actually, Africa is now trying to build a African economic union in a fraction of the time that the Europeans have spent. In order to actually create a stronger internal market, so they are less dependent on Europe, and to create more jobs and opportunities for Africans. Whether or not they will be successful, that still remains to be seen. I have my sincere doubts, but the leaders seem to all be very much interested. It was going in the right direction, but
so my recommendation to Africa, the Japanese government will make 300 million Japanese yen, not dollar, and for making investment to Africa. So I think they much more focus on strategic planning for those countries. Like South Sudan, they did several years ago made a strategic planning for the agriculture business in South Sudan. This is a good job, and for my Accenture staff involved in to prepare plan, sort of things we can do support for them. Actually, kind of skill is insufficient in Africa. So education, it doesn't work well.
Right.
And
but it is very
healthcare doesn't work well.
It's very difficult to actually come up with ideas from Japan or from the Netherlands or from anywhere else. You need to be on the ground and really need to observe the problems that people are actually facing.
Of course.
The best project that I found in Africa was a project to make roof tiles. Roof tiles, I don't think anybody would have gotten that idea from Europe or from Japan. You really need to be there to see, okay, what is the big problem? Why do people? Why is there hunger? Actually, it's because of the rainy season and the fact that people do not have proper roofs on their sheds, which means that when it rains, everything gets wet and starts to rot, including the crops that are being stored in those little shacks. So, roof tiles actually create food security for people, so they don't have to be hungry again. Those kind of simple grassroots projects, they need support, but you will never be able to figure that out. A lot of problems start to occur when JICA thinks from Japan it's a good idea to bring an automatic weather stations to Bangladesh. Sure, it may sound good on paper, but people don't see it as a problem that their weather stations are not automatic.
The same thing happened in Sub-Saharan, okay? And their desert is expanding year by year. So there are several, NGO try to protect for expanding desert
right.
in Sub-Saharan. So kind of project the Japanese government need to support for them. For example, also some country, I forget which country it is, but they are dwelling well to get the water from underground for agriculture business. The sort of things they can support them. Sort of things we have lot of things, but Japanese themselves cannot get involved in by themselves. They need some good relationship with government, some intermediator.
Right. You need to go there. You need to observe things.
Intermediator.
Yeah.
Maybe some British people or Dutch people.
But it has to be bottom up.
But government need to be involved.
Government needs to, government may need to be involved, but I mean, basically just throwing money at there and making sure. One of the other problems is that, we are fine in supporting local projects, but always the money needs to go back to Japan or needs to go back to Europe.
Do you know Japanese government cannot support only NGO. They need always concerned about government to government. Right?